Do you have a home for yourself? I want you to think about that. Do you have a home for yourself? All right? Cancer Mars, retrograde. As I told you, this is going to be a continuous subject to review. And this blesses us with preparedness. And that preparation leads to confidence and stability overall. So let's look into this one detail about the fourth house or the home. Understand? Now you might say, we're talking about the home where you turn the key, you walk in the door, you close the door, and you do what you do. No, not that home. The home of the good mothers. The good mothers. And the good mothers are our natural instincts that leads us to the best care for ourselves. That's the good mother. The natural instincts that we have to care for ourselves, to take good care of ourselves. Whatever that means at that time. Whatever that means continuously. Whatever those needs are. The good mothers. There's a concept, Ifa Yoruba African spiritual tradition, in which you know I am a Babalawo of that tradition. And there's a concept called Iyami Aje. Iyami Aje. Okay? When you hear new words, these are things that you could feel free to go ahead and study. All right? Iyami Aje. IYAMI hyphen AJE. Okay? Iyami Aje. And what this concept says is the good mothers of earth. In English, this translates to the witches of white light or white energy. Iyami Aje. And what that is, it has to do with our psychic energy that homes in to where our best care could be. It stabilizes itself off of our instincts and our intuition, the sensitivity that we have, where we home in on danger, exceeding the limit, going too far. I'm overdoing it. This isn't safe. It's the mother that protects the inner child. It's the mother that covers the inner child, that nurtures the inner child. But that's within the bodies of the self. There's a mother there that's protecting that inner child, nurturing that inner child, homing into what the needs are of inner child. Iyami Aje. Many take this concept and they run with it. Oh, the witches, the witches, the witches. I apologize that so many have put so much misinformation out there. Misinformation. There's no spiritual force, concept, entity, being that is outside of yourself. Understand that. But that also should remind us of how complex we are. This isn't about spookism. It's the fact that Iyami Aje, or the good mothers of earth, known as the white witches of white light, okay? This is an eternally good, noble, benevolent, merciful, caring, compassionate, psychic force that presides over us, that protects us, guides us. It attracts what we need. It repels what we don't need. It also has the ability to go to war, just like a mother. And oh, when a mother goes to war, you better watch out. When a mother goes to war, she doesn't care about her life. She doesn't care about her safety. She will lie down and die for the preservation of the child, for the security of the child. A mother's love in demonstration, there's nothing like it that we will ever witness. It is one of the greatest things to witness. And that force takes place within the self in an archetypal sense. The good mothers, Iyami Ajay. There are many other details to be explained about that, so don't take that small summarization and run with it thinking, oh, I understand what this concept is. No, it's very big, okay? But this is one detail that we should contemplate. Now, when I say, do we have a home for ourselves? This is, have we prepared the cancer aspects of ourselves to be hospitable to ourselves? Hospitable. You may say, of course we do. But what requires a verification is that often we don't prepare a home for the shadows that come with self, for the authentic expressions that comes with self. We leave those parts of ourself outside of that door. We don't welcome them in. We don't comfort them, heal them, feed them, nurture them, encourage them, pray over them. We leave them outside like shadows, wandering about like delinquents, juvenile delinquents, getting in trouble, loveless. What happens when a child feels loveless? They become the worst of themselves, and then they get blamed for it. It's the same within you, it's the same within me of our forces. You see the image on this screen, and you may say, oh, it's a group of guys. No. What I'm intending is that it's your shadows. It's your shadows, a community in you. We have to prepare a home for them. We're forecasting what's ahead. In forecasting what's ahead, we have to become the authentic versions of ourselves, and it's not so simple as what we used to think it means. We are deliberately and intentionally walking down the life path of our life, welcoming all the smoke and rejection, the resistance, jealousy and envy, hatred, abandonment, and everything else that comes with being who you really are. But if you don't have a home in yourself for all of the forces and beings of yourself to reside, to take refuge, you will always feel isolated. You will always feel alone, and you will become lonely. You will become lonely because you haven't prepared a home within the self for all of who the self is. That's where the loneliness comes from. Loneliness has nothing to do with who's sitting next to you and who's not, but rather or not you have company, someone to talk to. That's not loneliness. Loneliness is when you lack a healthy connection to yourself. When you lack the healthy connection to yourself, you feel isolated when others are not there to project an illusion of not being alone. Understand? So we have to prepare the home within the self because rejection is ahead. Abandonment is ahead. More lessons of what to do when we get rejected, when we get abandoned. More lessons of what we need to do when we feel left out in the cold, where the world turns its back on you for being exactly who God called you to be. You can handle it if you have a home where love is, nurturing, care, a safe space for vulnerability, pouring in, backing and support. This is what you have to create for yourself. And it is on the wise of the fourth house. On the wise of the fourth house. It is how you mother yourself. You mother yourself according to the sign and impulses or planets of your fourth house. That's how you mother yourself. That's what you require to feel mothered and nurtured, emotionally secure. Where your Cancer placement is at in your natal birth chart, this is what you must do, what you must give out to expect a return of such nurturing from the outer world. It is where you share the abundance of that nurturing and emotional security. That is where you give it out. That is where you demonstrate motherliness, the divine mother. Iyami Ajay. When it comes to that which we give outward, this is more so of Yemaya or Yamoja. Okay? The mother within, who mothers the inner child, that is Iyami Ajay. Okay? So these are two different aspects of the same sign. When it comes to the house, the fourth house, this is an Iyami Ajay disposition. When it comes to what we give outward, that is Yamoja or Yemeya. When we receive the same from others outside of ourselves, that is Yemeya or Yamoja, okay, which is mother of Orishas. Mother of Orishas. She is archetype of the moon. She is a lunar force. She is a mother of the salty waters, the surface of the ocean. Just as Olokun, Orisha, is archetype of the depth of the ocean through Neptune. Understand? Okay? So this is where astrology relates or even explains Ifa cosmology. Okay. Now anyway, let's get back to familiar language. Transforming isolation into solitude, we have to prepare our routines that allows us to do this. What's coming up next is that we're taking our heart so urge down the life path intentionally, being aware that this is what we are doing. Looking for it, positioning for it, preparing for it, showing enthusiasm, creating infrastructure that allows us to do so effectively down the life path. This is part of knowing who we are and what we're here to do. And we have to have that safe home within the self so that we can endure the rejection that is inevitable, the isolation that's inevitable. When we resist being in that 12th house, we feel that cold burden of isolation, and it causes us to become undone. Because the impulses that are there, they lead to perversions, they lead to undoing. And so, because we utilize those impulses to pacify the coldness of being alone, until we understand its benefits, its blessings, its opportunity, we undo ourselves, bringing in perversions, bad habits and addictions, all of the Pisces themes, the art of escapism through these impulses. And it brings us to rock bottom, which is a place of humiliation that prepares us for humility, where we finally surrender and we prepare ourselves to be a student of higher forces. We know that humility is the first step to being a student. So, with enough practice, we transform that into solitude by embracing the opportunities in being alone, embracing the opportunity of being rejected, betrayed, or abandoned. Because who you are, what you express, what your soul is inclined to be or do, it may not match the ideals that others have of you. It may not match the ideals of what the world wants you to be, or how they want to exploit or utilize your gifts, your faculties, your forces, your power, your talents. You have your own vision for it. But you can't begin to find the confidence of transferring your forces and talents, your forces and gifts into your own ideal until you can weather the storm of isolation. You will never do it. You will continuously give in. Continuously. You'll always submit. You'll go back crawling on your knees, begging to be used a little more, begging to be played a little longer, begging to be someone's slave for a little longer because you fear to walk alone. You're afraid of that life path that you have, the destiny that's in it and what it calls for. This is what we're changing. It's you, your inner child, your shadows, the inner mother. You're a whole family. And Father Saturn, who upholds it all. Father Saturn, who brings infrastructure to everything that you do. Grit, strength, discipline, obedience. A skeleton for everybody within the being. A spirit of rectitude. Strength that is true and not delusion. That's the family that you're migrating with. That's the family that you have a nomadic experience with. As you finally take the heart so urged vibration that you have, the expression authentically of the inner child, and you go on that nomadic journey with that clan within yourself, the community within yourself, to align it with the proper life path, the life path that you came to earth to live out, the service that you came to do. This isn't a story of just living your life alone. It's a story of being prepared to walk alone when it's necessary. It's about being in position to negotiate from the 7th house. All relationships go through the 7th house. But you're going to have troubles if you don't know how to negotiate at the seventh house. You have to negotiate fair and just terms in every relationship. Bringing your boundaries, your do's and your don'ts, your expectations, your needs, and also being willing to hear out the other person's conditions of their contract. Reasoning, bargaining. You can't negotiate at a table that you're not prepared to walk away from. Could this be the point? Could this be the point? So can we see how isolation and solitude, the transformation of isolation into solitude, it prepares you to be a strong negotiator wherever you go. Whether it's a job, a career, a relationship, agreement by the shake of a hand, consent in whatever expressions of consent that we give. There's a contract that's active, that's open or closing consistently. But we are the ones who have to give fair negotiation. The inner child is expecting, trusting that you will negotiate on its behalf what it needs. That's called advocacy. You have to be a trustworthy advocate of the inner child. We just resolved that issue through the Cancer Mars retrograde. Agreeing with the inner child that we will not fail to negotiate for him or her anymore. That we will include his or her needs and interests. We will not put them in positions that scare them or terrorize them. Exploit them. Leave them hanging, unanswered, unreplied to. Children hate being ignored. Mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy. Children hate being ignored. And it has devastating effects on them when you constantly ignore them. You thought it was different for your inner child? The inner child can make you pay the price for that. None of us has a relationship that surpasses the condition of the relationship that you have with your inner child. That is the only relationship you will ever have, no matter how many relationships you have in your life. If you have 20 active relationships in your life right now, none of them surpasses the value and condition that you have with your inner child, between you and your inner child. That is always going to be the reflection of the relationships that you have outside of yourself. It's going to be a hologram of the relationship that you have with your inner child. If you harvest and cultivate trust, respect, dignity, integrity, transparency, healthy connection, fulfillment, security, honor between you and inner child. That's exactly what you will see in all of your relationships. So likewise, if you harvest neglect, betrayal, mutiny, deceit, abandonment, neglect, if I didn't mention, that's exactly what you will see in every relationship that you have over and over again. That's where it begins. You don't like the quality of relationships that you've been experiencing. You cannot change it directly with the reality of the relationships that you're in. You have to go back to source from whence the relationships are being projected from, between you and the inner child. If you heal that, you will heal every part of where that shows up in all of your relationships in your life and your reality. It will be the same. It will be a natural occurrence, irresistible. Let me encourage you to focus on transforming isolation into solitude. That 12th house and 4th house that projects itself through the 8th house. The 12th house and the 4th house that projects itself through the 8th house. The 4th house is what the inner child needs to be nurtured. The 12th house is what you entertain when you are in isolation. It's what you do in isolation. Understand? And sooner or later it becomes what you have to share from unconditional love, compassion, and understanding. But what goes first before that unconditional love, compassion, and understanding? You must suffer it first. You suffer the things that you share. You suffer the things that you understand. You suffer the things that you relate to. You suffer the things that you pity. You suffer it. Once you have suffered, and you suffered well at the 12th house with those impulses, it has caused you to become undone over and over again, hitting rock bottom, humiliation, power struggles within the self, war within the self, discontent, subconscious impulses that we cannot identify, articulate, understand. We trample and we trample. Sooner or later we surrender and we say, from whence does this come? We find the humility to say, I want to learn. I want to understand. The 12th house is a house of understanding. It is greater than knowledge. It is greater than wisdom. It is understanding. It is a completion of the circle. Completion, which is why it must dissolve. That's where we can afford compassion from. If you have not suffered anything, you don't have compassion to afford. If you have not suffered anything, you do not have the capacity to grasp the power of understanding. You must suffer something first to afford that. That is the greatest value of life, the 12th house. There's no higher value in life than the 12th house. There's also no greater depth than the 12th house. Neptune, Olokun, Orisha Olokun rules the sea bottom. Understand? The sea bottom. Pisces. There's no greater depth. From the depths of the sea bottom, you spark the light of understanding and compassion. And it all came from your suffering, that you comprehend compassion and understanding, that you see compassion and understanding. It dissolves differences. It dissolves boundaries. It unifies. It becomes an awareness of yourself through others, seeing yourself in others, seeing your own suffering in the suffering of others. No greater love. Let's make sure you have somewhere to go. Understand? This is preparing you to be a strong negotiator. All right? What is the table? Okay? You hear people saying all the time, what do you bring to the table? Some of these modern females out here talking about, I am the table. You know what I mean? All this other clown shit. But anyway, the table. Where is the table in a natal birth chart? Right? It's the 8th house. That's the table. The table is the 8th house. That's where the table's at. Where your second house and another person's second house is what sets the table. Do you get that picture? Your second house, the synastry of your second house and another person's second house, it sets the table at the 8th house. Understand? Understand? You're going to be a beggar at the table? You're going to be a slave at the table? You're going to get a shitty deal at the table? Where does all that come from? It comes from your desperation. You're fucking desperate. And desperation is about what? We're desperate to feel secure. We're desperate to feel stable. What is that? Cancer and Taurus. Okay, we're gonna talk about Taurus on another segment. Taurus deals with the physical reality of your life that you're desperate to have resolution for. Cancer represents the emotional reality of your life that you're desperate to have resolution for. And between Cancer and Taurus, you become desperate when you have not prepared your Cancer and Taurus, your second house and fourth house. When you have not made preparation there. Where you have not cultivated those houses. Prepared those houses for yourself. There's no guarantees and no promises about somebody else's resources. Not personally and not in any institution. Institutions are subject to failure. People are subject to failure. And we can't continue making the mistake of charging them for it, holding it against them, taking it personal. Walking the earth with our head down, feeling sour, bitter, and sad because somebody didn't pull through on what we expected or what we wanted of them or how we wanted them to behave or do or give or benefit us in a certain way. We can't walk sour like that no more. You have to prepare your own fucking house. Your second house and your fourth house. You have to prepare it and enrich it for yourself. And you can tell niggas, take a walk, jerk. You heard? If it's not a good deal, yeah, take a walk, jerk. Understand? You can negotiate with confidence because you have your own place to go to, nigga. Fuck you mean? Out here begging for fucking scraps. Begging for fair treatment. Begging for somebody to be nice to you. Begging for somebody to treat you a certain way. Fuck you talking about? Fuck you mean, nigga? Understand me. Nobody owe you understanding. Yeah. Nobody owes you understanding. Nobody. Nobody owe you understanding. You know what I mean? Self-determination. Dignity. Self-determination and dignity. Now, where else have you seen this energy of self-determination, dignity? Where else have you seen this energy of becoming a negotiator at the tables? Okay? The tables of the earth. You see it everywhere. Look in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso. He had France all on their dick. They hand 20 feet deep in the cookie jar of Burkina Faso to take their gold, to take their minerals, and everything else. France over there fucking these niggas with no Vaseline, just like they do in Haiti. Okay? Haiti look fucked up because Haitian Revolution, they beat the shit out of France. Napoleon Bonaparte got the fuck out of there so scared and shook at what he seen. Sold the whole Louisiana Purchase. Told horror stories. France's butt hurt, so now they hit Haiti with sanctions after they became the first French African independent nation, republic. And they've been exploiting them and sucking the blood out of them since. Okay? So France made Haiti look fucked up like that. And if Burkina Faso's not careful, Burkina Faso gonna look just like fucking Haiti. Because France gonna do the same thing to them. exploiting them for all of their resources. They did the same damn thing. So Ibrahim Traore stood up and said, nah, we don't need your help. Get out of here. You could go home now. We don't want your help. We don't want your ideas. We're good. We're going to have self-determination, self-reliance. We're going to have dignity. We're not going to be begging for scraps. And they prepared a home for themselves. You see? They prepared a home for themselves. Burkina Faso. And it doesn't mean it was going to be easy, but Burkina Faso became one of the first nations to pay off every dime of their debt. Imagine that. Oh, you think I'm lying? Google that shit while you listening to this. Google it while I'm listening to this. You know what I mean? And you see for yourself. What I'm trying to demonstrate is that the microcosm and the macrocosm of this energy is well alive. It's not just you and me in a personal sense. It's energy that presides over the entire planet as an attitude, a direction that we're going, self-determination. And to go in that direction, you have to fortify your self-esteem, second house. You have to fortify your sense of values. You have to fortify your identity. You have to fortify your emotional home within yourself, the fourth house Cancer, the inner child, to make sure that you can rely on the strength and stability of your emotionality even. And you have to advocate for the inner child. The inner child don't want to be a slave, begging, put to shame, getting the scraps, the leftovers. No. The inner child wants you to be that nigga, standing up proud, tall, with your head up, dignified, not with a fucking dick in your ass. You know what I'm saying? That's what that's about. So Burkina Faso became a nation that now is able to negotiate at the tables of all nations. And they braved the isolation. They braved the rejection. Nigeria was shook that Burkina Faso took that direction. Because they still attached. They still have attachments to France. They still have attachment to all these Western countries for resources, for money under the table, for dirty shit that they doing. They still have attachment. So they look at Ibrahim Traore like he's the bad guy. It's just like, you know what I mean, like slaves. You got one slave nigga that say to himself, I'm not getting ready to put up with this. I'm gonna run away. So he plotting on running away. But if he tell the other slaves in the field that's scared, that's shook, that's, you know, still want to be, you know what I mean, sucking off a massa, he got a problem on his hand, because the other slave is going to be like, oh, yeah, that nigga, he planning on leaving. He planning on running away. I heard him. He was talking about it. And they start snitching because of their fears. And they start projecting their fears onto him. Oh, I don't know why you going to do that. You know you're going to get your leg cut off. Yeah, the last man that ran, you know what happened to him. He got hung. And they start putting these seeds of doubt in your head, these seeds of doubt in your heart. And if you fall for it, you'll never fucking do it. Why do you think the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, why you think she walked with a pistol? Yeah. Oh, you ain't know that? Yeah. Yeah. She walked with a pistol. Because fear comes out of that. People are afraid to be authentic. They're afraid to be real. They're afraid to go in the direction of self-determination and dignity, self-respect. They're afraid of that. They rather just go for the ride of somebody else determining their second house and fourth house, of somebody else providing for their second house and fourth house, or somebody else giving them all of that. But remember the axis of freedom and security. If you want that much security on somebody else's dime, guess what? You got to lose your freedom to have all of that. If you want your own freedom in the opposite direction, you have to lose the security of your attachments to other people. You see how that works? Because the security was an illusion in the first place. It wasn't real. That's attachment. You see what I'm saying? It's attachment, not security. The attachment is attempt to establish security through fearful means. You see what I'm saying? You see how that works. That's what this is about. Look at, for example, Trump. Okay? He's slapping terrorists. He's slapping mad niggas with tariffs right now. You get a tariff, you get a tariff, you get a tariff. He just slapping mad niggas with tariffs. What you think that's about? It's about America having self-determination and dignity again. You know what I'm saying? When I was 18 years old, I guess I was 2001 or something like that, whatever, if I'm counting right, or 2002. 2001, I think. I don't know. But anyway, when I was 18 years old, I finished business school up in New York. As soon as I finished business school, I left New York because, I was up there selling drugs. My sister, told on me about it, and it turned into this big thing in the family where, my mom started crying and tripping and stuff like that. And I felt really terrible, you know what I'm saying? And so I got up out of New York, came down south, first went to Atlanta with my sister or whatever. And then I went to South Carolina, Georgetown, South Carolina. All right, you can look this shit up, Georgetown, South Carolina. And during that time, there was a steel mill, steel plant, and I started working at the steel mill, and we were still producing steel. Now, 2 years later, they closed the shit down. It got sold to China. This was a time where industrial jobs and careers in America was being shipped overseas, and we no longer was producing. So Trump's idea is to bring that back. Now, I'm not here to say rather not the idea will work, rather it's a good idea. That's not what I'm talking about. So focus with me. What I'm focusing on is we gave away what made us self-determining. We gave away what made us self-sufficient and self-sustainable. Everything that Burkina Faso is trying to do right now, for example, as I mentioned, in Africa, they're they're trying to produce everything of their own. From recently, it was tomatoes, tomato farms, gold, as I told you, minerals, rich minerals. They're getting donations of military. Artillery and different things like that from Russia and possibly China. I don't know what else. Other nations. Italy is, definitely feeling what they're doing, backing them up. And, basically to produce value, second house, to produce and enrich their second house on their own, self-determination, They're pouring into their own second house, all right? They're treating the second house as primary, and they're treating the eighth house as secondary. That's what we're supposed to do. You're not supposed to put all bets in the eighth house on what you get out of the eighth house. You're supposed to enrich your second house, because that's what keeps you a good negotiator. Trump is doing the same thing with America, Now, I know some people have different opinions about Trump. Again, focus with me, We ain't talking about other things. I'm just talking about this energy, So, tariffs are being slapped and whatnot, and it has a lot to do with, first of all, converting from tax procurement from the common people and instead sourcing that from the tariffs. At least that's the proposal. And then as far as, industrial value of other countries that we've been, outsourcing, different productions, to different countries and, things of that nature, steel production and, all of that. Recently, you found out about European high fashion, that got exposed as really being produced in China. Same thing. All right. So we got all this eighth house investment out there, but the second house, we ain't doing nothing. We ain't hitting on nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's just like me. I find this rich, some rich woman or whatever. And I go and I lay on her. Sleeping. I go driving her car, spending her money. Sitting at the crib playing video games and shit while she go to work. Doing nigga shit, acting like Tyrone. But I'm not getting up every day producing for my own second house. I stopped going to work. I stopped buying my own groceries. I stopped being self-determined. I stopped, How can I respect myself? How can I have dignity? And if something goes sour in a relationship, okay, as a man, I'm sitting here as a man living off a woman. And if something happens to what that I don't like, that okay, that goes against my values or goes against the emotional security of my inner child, something goes against my own sense of integrity or dignity, how can I argue? How can I bargain? I have to accept it because I'm dependent on that person. You see how that works. I put myself in a bind. Now I have to accept the bad treatment. Now I have to accept oppression. Now I have to accept wrongdoing, injustices, abuse, all kinds of different things, because I put myself in position to rely on that person's second house instead of my own. Okay? And if you want to, let me clarify this part. Some people may misunderstand what I'm saying, like it, in a marriage, to say, oh, maybe we shouldn't get married to share resources. I'm not saying that. Okay, so let me clean that part up. Even in marriage, your second house and that person's second house, according to the time period we are in, okay, you have to be self-sustainable, because we're no longer in the time, the age, the generations where man is supposed to support a woman 100%. We're not in that time no more. That's the past. Okay? And if you, man or woman, depend on or rely on 100% another person's second house, you're going to run into the crisis of where you sell your soul, or you fail to advocate for your inner child because of lack of resources or because of desperation. And the inner child is going to punish you for that. You will never have peace. You will be depressed. You will start to die a very slow death. Okay? That's the easiest way I could put it. So, Pluto Aquarius transit, it requires us to change the way that we relate. Aquarius is about detachment, not attachment. Where does attachment take place at? It takes place within the Scorpio algorithm. That is attachment. The shadows of Scorpio. The illumination of that is connection, which leads directly over to Aquarius. That's from the 8th house to the 11th house. Aquarius is connection. When you are connected, you are self-sustained within the second house. The other person is self-sustained within the second house. And you collaborate, not attach. It's a collaboration, connection. You see how that works? And what this does is it allows us to be prepared to negotiate. And remember, you cannot negotiate if you're not prepared to leave the table. If you're not in position to leave the table without loss. You see? That's where negotiation begins. It begins with you being in position to leave the table of negotiation without suffering a loss. And that comes back to the condition of your second house. Okay? That opens the awareness of stability. Taurus. What did we just have? We just had the new moon Taurus. Okay? So right now, over the next 6 months, we are supposed to position ourselves to be self-sustainable at the second house. And this allows us to become strong negotiators. You don't like the way you're being treated. You're not going to abuse me. You're not going to disrespect me. You're not going to oppress me. You can't have that conversation if you're not prepared to walk away. It's just that fucking simple. Do we understand this? We don't have to argue with people, try to control people if we're prepared to go our own way. If I meet a woman today and I'm self-sufficient, my second house is healthy, my second house is stable, My fourth house is healthy. My fourth house is stable, which means I do not depend on that person for emotional validation. I do not depend on that person for happiness. I do not depend on that person to feel secure in myself. I do not depend on that person for a sense of fulfillment. Nope. My fourth house is happy. My emotional stability is from my own process and focus. You see? Taurus, I do not depend on that person to feed myself or to clothe myself. I do not depend on that person to pay my bills. I do not depend on that person to give myself self-reliance and self-determination. Nope. So this is what puts me in position to have a healthy connection with that woman. Because I'm not out to use you for anything or get anything out of you. You understand? That is what allows a healthy connection. But when I lack those things in my second house and fourth house, it's out of desperation, subconsciously, what I'm doing and saying. And that's where the control comes in. Now I have to try to control this woman so that I can guarantee that she can make up for or compensate the lack in my second house, the weakness of my second house, the lack of preparedness and fortification in my second house. Now I'm becoming controlling. Because if she should leave, it's going to cause me a loss. It's going to devastate me. It's going to cause me trauma. It's going to cause me trouble. And from the fourth house sense, I have to control her to make sure that there's no interference with how she pours into my emotional state, with how she upholds and sustains my emotional state. So now I practice control, hysteria, fear, and all of these other toxic behaviors because I am not prepared in my own fourth house. I don't have a home for my own inner child. I don't have a home for my own inner shadows. Let's talk about those inner shadows, okay? For example, if I don't have a home for my inner shadows, as soon as I bring my shadows out, she doesn't like it, okay? Let's say one of my shadows is that, I like to go, I don't know, I like to go bungee jumping, okay? And every time I talk about going bungee jumping, she projects onto me her own fears and all these other different things, and she discourages me from doing it. Or if I say, let me see, another one. I like boxing, okay? Let's say I like boxing. I go to the boxing gym and come home with black eyes, different things like that. But, in my sense, I'm taking it like it's just a therapy that I needed, okay? So it becomes a shadow when I allow her disapproval of it or her disgust of it to cause me to suppress that which I really do connect with and enjoy, that which upholds my self-esteem, my sense of myself, and personal expression. You see? So now a shadow is born. Okay? So because I'm dependent on her for emotional validation and all these different things, I keep that shadow suppressed. I don't bring that shadow out because if I bring it out, it might push her away. If I bring the shadow out, it might make her question whether or not she should be with me. She's going to be unhappy with me. You see, this is how we become inauthentic over and over again. That's the fucking problem. We have to become strong negotiators, and strong negotiators is if what I'm doing and who I am in my terms and what I have to offer, what's in my second house, if you don't like it, if it don't work for you, if it's a problem for you or whatever else, I can't control the other person. All I could do is I could renegotiate, but I can't suppress or deny myself full expression of who I am or what I am. I can't do that. That's against the rules. So if you find that this person is not embracing or accepting or celebrating of those parts of yourself, you have to walk away from the table. But if you had preparedness within yourself, you walk away without a loss. If you didn't prepare, you walk away with a loss of what you were attached to. If it was a connection, you don't suffer a loss. You simply reconnect where it is more appropriate for who you are. This is what we're learning to achieve. This is what makes relationships more healthy and happy, conducive. Not just in a romantic sense, but also in careers, business, enterprise. Ain't no problem. Here's the deal. Got this going on, got that. Crunch some numbers. I could do this percent on this and this percent on that. Okay, so what do you say? No, it's not going to work for me. I don't really like this and I don't like that. And no, this is just too much with this and that. No, thank you. Okay, no problem. Yeah, hey, nice doing business with you. Okay, hope everything goes well. Take care. You know, that's where we're supposed to be. No, don't need me. Like you do this to me. But you're supposed to. But I thought you would. We just become a fucking mess. A sloppy ass, pitiful, fucking crying ass mess. Get the fuck up. Shake yourself off. Respect yourself. Have some dignity. Dust yourself off, nigga. Take a shower. Stop that fucking crying. Get the fuck up, nigga. Do you know who you are? Yeah. That's what that's about. It's ending these experiences. It's putting all this shit to a fucking end. The misery, the pain, the suffering. Baby. I'm gonna die in front of the fuck, nigga? No, we not doing that. We at a different level now. You're becoming a negotiator for your constitution, for your world, for your flag, for your nation of the self, of the government of self, the kingdom of self. You have to become a fair negotiator for yourself. And you can't negotiate if you're not prepared to walk the fuck away from the table at any given time. Because you start giving me a shitty deal, you start doing what doesn't work with me, or what offends me, or what oppresses me, wrongs me, whatever else. No. Nigga, I'm out. See ya. Connection, not attachment. This is what we got to understand. Aquarius is to connect, not attach. So your feedback is always welcome. I encourage it, and it's helpful. Okay, when you give feedback, the feedback not only primes the algorithm because of the comments. Okay, it gets the video moving around to show presence. I got a shadow ban, so y'all niggas got to help me out with that. Hit the like button. You know what I mean? Comment what you feel can, contribute some value to the situation or insight. Personal testimony, whatever. You understand? All of that helps. Let's get all inclusive. Let's get involved. Show the support. That's how you support me. You know what I mean? I'm supporting you by showing up. And that's how you support me back. So overall, I hope that the picture was formed here of where we at and what we got to do. Okay? You and I have to take a heart, soul, urge expression according to Leo Mars impulse. Okay? Leo Mars impulse. This is an urge that we can't resist. We got to roar like a lion in a specific way. Okay? Of that heart, soul, urge vibration. It's something we have to express. Specifically, we have to take it to a particular life path. That life path will be according to the fated experiences of your North Node. Okay? In the context of the numerical value of your life path number. If you're confused about this, feel free to ask questions. Okay? Furthermore, if you're confused about this, you definitely need to schedule a reading with me. Okay? The more of you out there who schedule a reading with me, who get that popping, you're going to be able to see how much of an understanding that you can have of yourself and about your life, your past, your present, and your future without investing so much time and energy scattered all over the place trying to figure this thing out. You got to allow me to help you. Okay? The sooner you allow me to help you, the sooner we can catch ourselves up and we can start supporting each other. Okay? Because then more people out there have the understanding and it becomes a collaboration where we all are involved with supporting each other to maintain that understanding and confidence. Understand? Okay? So don't just sit there. You know what I mean? Transforming isolation into solitude. It's about having a home for yourself in the wilderness. Okay, because going out there negotiating, yeah, you're gonna come right back to the wilderness because everybody don't want what you got, and everybody don't want the terms and conditions that you're pitching. You got to sell yourself. It's going to be trial and error until you find your tribe. Some will be there for, people are there for seasons, a short while, a long while. Things change, whatever the case may be. But we're evolving to the point where we're no longer controlling each other. We're not trying to control people because we're coming out of the desperation that calls for the control. The connections, not attachments. The attachments of grieving past fears of rejection and abandonment and loss. And we're projecting that to the person in the present. The attachments to the fears that we have of what's coming in the future, or what we foresee in the future, or what we don't want to foresee in the future. Exercising control in order to try to prevent or block that manifestation because we don't want to suffer that experience. It's toxic. It's unhealthy. We can't be living like that no more. You got a man, you got a woman, they're not your fucking private property. Get over yourself. Get the fuck over yourself. If the person is not who you can have a peaceful connection with, you have to have the courage, the bravery, and the preparedness to go it alone until you can position yourself with who's more appropriate for you. But if you're not willing to do that, shut the fuck up with the complaining. Shut up. Put your little slave cuffs back on, put your little chain back on, and shut the fuck up and enjoy your slavery. Understand that. Because the complaining ain't changing nothing. It's just making you more and more undesirable. That's all it's doing. More and more undesirable.